Jeremy Swayman and the Boston Bruins will not be heading to arbitration, but is there a possibility of an offer sheet?
You're Locked On Bruins, your daily podcast on the Boston Bruins. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, Bruins fans, and welcome back to the Locked On Boston Bruins podcast. I'm your host, Ian McLaren, and this is a daily show where we discuss all things spoke to be. Today is Monday, July 8th, and I want to thank you so much for making Locked On Bruins part of your daily routine. Free and available on your favorite podcast app and on YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more as Major League Baseball is the sole focus right now. FanDuel is hooking up all customers with a boost or bonus daily. That's right, there's something for everyone, every day, all summer long. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. And before we get started, a quick reminder, you can find the podcast on social media at Locked NHL Bruins. And you can find me, my dad jokes, hockey thoughts, at Ian C. McLaren. Now, over the weekend, there was some development in the contract situation with goaltender Jeremy Swayman and the Boston Bruins. And that was both sides elected not to go to arbitration this summer. It's something that happened last year. And it was something that Jeremy Swayman in particular had already publicly expressed a desire never to go through again. Don Sweeney back in May said that from their point of view, it was not an indication of whether or not they believed in Jeremy Swayman. It's simply a case of both sides coming in with valuations and arguing their cases. And the team has to be somewhat ruthless in order to keep the number down. The player, of course, is going to pump his own tires in order to get the highest value possible. Now, the deadline for Swayman to file arbitration was on Friday at 5 p.m., and the team had another 24 hours following that window to file with a player. Both deadlines passed, with neither deciding a third party was necessary to determine Jeremy Swayman's valuation this year. And thank goodness, especially for Swayman. Yeah, nobody wanted him to have to go through that again. Now, again, arbitration is used when a player and a team cannot agree on the terms of a new contract. It's usually in regards to the valuation. You always see when a player goes to arbitration, someone like Elliot Friedman will tweet, the player's ask is $1 billion. The team is offering $100,000, and then the decision usually comes somewhere in between. Last season, the Bruins and Swayman were very far apart and were not able to come together on a deal. This summer, it's a positive indication that the Bruins and their clear-cut number one goalie are more on the same page, and they're just trying to figure it out. We talked about comparables on Friday. You have Jeremy Swayman, who's 25 years old. You have UC Saros, who is 30. He just signed an 8-year, $7.74 million contract. You have Connor Hellebuck, who's 31, who signed a 7 times $8.5 million contract. You had Ilya Sorokin, who's 28, and he signed an 8-year, $8.25 million AAV contract back in 2023. Andrei Vasilevsky, when he was 25, he signed 8 years, $9.5 million. So that's kind of the range that we're working with here, between 7.74, 9.5. You have to think the Bruins are hoping to pay him closer to the 7.5 million range. And I would think Swayman's looking at around 8.5 million. Obviously, Swayman has not a lot of leverage as a restricted free agent, but also a bit, because The Bruins are obviously making a strong commitment to Swayman after trading Linus Ullmark to the Ottawa Senators. He took command of their net in the playoffs and is obviously the future in net for the Boston Bruins. He's the present after they've traded Linus Ullmark. As of right now, he is a restricted free agent, and teams can sign him to an offer sheet. But as we'll discuss later on in the podcast, the Bruins can retain his rights, match any offer to keep Swayman in black and gold, and we'll discuss that later on in the show. The Bruins, of course, have already spent a good chunk of their available cap space on Elias Lindholm, Nikita Zadorov, who is in Boston here on Monday. And we'll look at Puckpedia now, as Cat Friendly is no longer with us. They currently have 8.36667 in available cap space. So you could sign Swayman to an $8.5 million contract, not have a ton of flexibility moving forward, but you could fit him in. Don't forget, you can go over the cap here in the offseason. So that's where it stands at the moment. Both sides elected not to go to arbitration and are still working on the framework for a long-term contract. Could be 8 years, upwards of, 8.6 in available cap space. They would have to subtract if they want to fit him in if they go over that mark. What would a potential offer sheet look like, and who could possibly make that kind of offer? Well, we'll discuss that here as the podcast continues. I love me some sports, but as we get deeper into summer, the sports aren't sportsing as we would like them to. But FanDuel lets you keep sports going whenever you want. All you have to do is open the app and dream up bets anytime you're in the mood. All summer long, FanDuel is hooking up all customers with boosts and bonuses daily. That's right, there's something for everyone every day, all summer long. All you have to do is head over to FanDuel, check out the available lines, player props, etc., and make the most out of your summer. For example, the Red Sox, their next game is coming up on Tuesday, and you can check out the spread, the money line, the total over there, and put down some money with daily boosts and bonuses available on FanDuel.com. FanDuel is the official sports betting partner of Major League Baseball. Thank you so much once again for making Locked On Bruins part of your daily routine, free and available on your favorite podcast app and on YouTube. While you're over on YouTube, check out Locked On Sports Today. All the latest news, analysis, and opinions, insights from across the Locked On universe. Free and available on YouTube and the Amazon Fire TV channels app. So we've established that neither Jeremy Swayman nor the Boston Bruins had an appetite to go to arbitration this year. There would have been implications for that shorter-term deal, and also some mixed feelings, certainly on the part of the player who had a bad experience with this last year. However, it does leave the Bruins vulnerable to an offer sheet should a team decide to try to take advantage of the fact that they have not yet reached an agreement and Boston's relative cap peril. They still have, like I said, 8.6 in cap space to deal with Swayman, but a hypothetical Tier 5 offer sheet could come in anywhere between 6.87 and 9.16 million. And if a team were to sign Jeremy Swayman to let's say, an offer sheet worth $9 million per season, the signing team, if the Bruins chose not to match, would have to send an upcoming first, second, and third round pick to the Bruins in compensation if the Bruins are unwilling to match. Now, the Bruins would likely match a max offer for Swayman, even if it approaches $9.16 million. They would have to do some maneuvering in order to free up that cap space and have some flexibility. But that possibility is there. Now, there are a few teams that would be able to sign Swayman to a deal in that range, including the Buffalo Sabres, the Detroit Red Wings, the Montreal Canadiens, Nashville Predators, New York Islanders, Philadelphia Flyers, and Seattle Kraken. The Sabres and Red Wings, that would be a very interesting decision. The Sabres do have some young goalies in Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen, Devin Levi. The Red Wings do have their issues in net. Last year with Ville Husso, Alex Leon played pretty well, but they could use that marquee goaltender to really strengthen their rebuilding process. But perhaps they won't be able to reach that once they try to fill out the roster. Now, the Predators, Islanders, they already have established goalies in UC Saros and Ilya Sorokin. Flyers and Kraken don't really have enough cap space to cause the Bruins problems. The Kraken specifically still have yet to sign Matty Beniers, which is a big restricted free agent for them. The Flyers are pretty up there in terms of actually they're already over the cap as it stands. One team that's very, very interesting could be the Montreal Canadiens. And don't discount the Detroit Red Wings. They have quite a bit of available cap space at the moment. Almost 20 million in available cap space, actually. They have yet to make decisions on Daniel Sprong, who's an unrestricted free agent. Joseph Aleno, Lucas Raymond are restricted free agents, as is Mo Sider, who they obviously want to keep around. So those guys, Raymond and Sider specifically, could take up huge chunks of that available $20 million. So perhaps that takes them out of the running. The Montreal Canadiens, though, could be a very interesting prospect, and that would really reignite one of the best rivalries in the game. The Canadiens only have 2 pending restricted free agents left to sign, with just over $10 million in available cap space. That's Arbitration and Justin Barron. Neither player projects to take up too much of that cap space, and it wouldn't necessarily prohibit Montreal from making this kind of move. Don't forget, they made an offer sheet to Sebastian Aho a few years ago, 5 years, $42.27 million. And that was kind of in retaliation for the Jesperi Kotkaniemi. They could also open up some cap space by dumping either Christian Dvorak or Joel Armia. Now, Carey Price still on the roster. His 10.5 will be put on LTIR. And while they don't have to do that, once they do, they could have up to $20 million in available cap space, giving them so much room to do this. Now, the Canadiens do have a pretty deep prospect pool already. They hold a conditional first-round pick from the Calgary Flames in 2025. They have Pittsburgh's second-round pick in 2025, a conditional third-round pick from New Jersey in 2025, as well as a pick from Vancouver. So even if they had to part with a first, a second, and a third-round pick in the next draft, they could still make 4 picks in the first 3 rounds. The picks that you give up as offer sheet compensation do not have to be your own picks. You add Jeremy Swayman to a core that already includes Nick Suzuki, Cole Caulfield, Juraj Ivan Demidov coming up. They have amazing defensive prospects as well. That could really jumpstart the rebuild for them and really put them in a position to be competitive much sooner than expected. They do have Sam Montembeault signed, but obviously you would rather have Jeremy Swayman than Sam Montembeault in that, or it could be a good duo at the very least. So that would be extremely, extremely interesting. You have Montembeault signed for the upcoming season at $3.15 million. Carey Price, of course, can go on LTIR. You have Caden Primo as the backup. Montembeault signed for 3 more years. So do you want to add Swayman on top of that? Well, it's no different than the Bruins carrying Swayman and Joonas Korpisalo at $3 million for the next 4 years. Again, on defense, they have Mike Matheson, David Savard, Jordan Harris, but they also have Lane Hudson coming up, Caden Gooley, and some other really promising prospects as well, like David Reinbacher, Logan Mailloux, who we don't really want to talk about, Justin Barron, as I mentioned. That could be a very, very interesting coup for the Montreal Canadiens as they try to take a bite out of Boston's core, and that would be devastating for the Boston Bruins. Make no mistake about it. If they had to go into next season with Brandon Bussey, and Joonas Korpisalo, that's not a goaltending tandem that you want to ride in, and Montreal could really put a dent in Boston's playoff hopes by doing that. Obviously, it would free up some cap space for the Bruins to sign elsewhere, maybe add some scoring, but you need that goaltending. Just look at Ottawa last year. Korpisalo, Forsberg really sunk that team and kept them from making any gains in the Atlantic Division. I don't think it will come to that. I think Boston would match no matter what, but if someone's going to sign Swayman to 7 years, $9 million per season, are you tempted to take those picks? Probably not, but it would be a electric development this offseason to be sure, and give us a lot to talk about here over the next weeks. Do I think that's going to happen? No. Do I think Jeremy Swayman is going to sign with the Boston Bruins? Yes. And I'll come in with my official prediction here for his next contract as the podcast continues. All right. I do believe at the end of the day, Jeremy Swayman will sign with the Boston Bruins for an extended period of time, keeping him in black and gold for hopefully the rest of his career. If you look at the goaltenders around the NHL and what they're making, you can clearly see that Jeremy Swayman deserves to be paid as one of the top goalies in the NHL. And while he has, of course, yet to carry the load as a true number one goaltender, and while he has yet to take his team past the second round of the playoffs, he was the reason why the Bruins were even remotely competitive against the Florida Panthers in the playoffs and were able to take it as far as they did. You look at other young goalies around the NHL, and you look at Jake Ottinger, for example. He's 25. He's making $4.8 million, which is a steal for the Dallas Stars. They kind of went the bridge route with him. He'll be an RFA at age 26. This contract expires at the end of next season, and he will be paid big time. And I'm sure they'll be using this contract as a comparable. You look at some of the top goalies around the NHL, and Jeremy Swayman deserves to be paid. Maybe not on the same level as Sergei Bobrovsky. Yeah, just won a cup. He's making $10 million. Vezina winner. You have Andrei Vasilevsky, multiple cup winner. Connor Hellebuck, multiple Vezina Trophy winner, but he certainly, you could argue, deserves to be mentioned in the same breath as Ilya Sorokin, who's 28, making $8.25 million, and doesn't have a ton of playoff success. I can't remember if he's won. I don't think he's won a Vezina either. So if the Islanders are willing to pony up for him, you can be sure that the Bruins should also be paying around that for him. So I could see a similar $8.25 million contract for Jeremy Swayman here with the Boston Bruins. So that would be 8 years at 8.25. He should be at least coming in above or at the same level as Ilya Sorokin. That would put him above John Gibson, Jacob Markstrom, Jordan Binnington, Philip Grubauer, Igor Shesterkin. A steal of a deal for the New York Rangers at 6.667. His cap hit is 5.66, which is great for the Rangers. Swayman, 8.25, get it done, Don, and let's please move on. That's my official prediction for our boy Jeremy Swayman. Would love to get that going here sooner than later and just avoid any talk of a potential offer sheet, as that's really a possibility. Montreal Canadiens could do something really drastic here. By looking at that, would really be a coup for them if they were able to sign Swayman to a contract extension, and that could signal to, or an offer sheet, I should say. Jay Fresh Hockey tweeted out this morning who the top goalies in the NHL are heading into 2024-25. He had Shesterkin number 1, Connor Hellebuck number 2, Vasilevsky number 3, and Jeremy Swayman at number 4. So do with that what you will. Linus Ullmark down at number 10 after being traded to the Ottawa Senators. Joonas Korpisalo, his new backup, down at number 50, just between Dustin Wolf and Casey DeSmith. So that's not great. If the Bruins can't get this done, they could be in real trouble. Sam Montembeault at 34th. So that would be a huge upgrade for the Montreal Canadiens if they were able to get that going. Anyways, that is it for today's episode, my friends. Thank you so much for tuning in. I hope you had a great long weekend. We will be back tomorrow to bring you all the latest on the Black and Gold. Still need to touch on development camp and what we learned about our prospects there. And just bring you all the latest here as we remain daily here through the month of July. Please do take care of yourselves, take care of each other. We'll talk to you again here tomorrow on Locked On Boston Bruins, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your favorite team every single day.